My name is Lillian Fred. I am 42 years old and live in Denver, Colorado. I have been married to Mark for 15 years, and we have 3 kids named Sam, Katie, and Ben. I grew up going to church every Sunday. My dad was a preacher, so I knew all about heaven and hell from a young age. But nobody ever told me what Jesus would show me later in my life. People always saw me as a good Christian woman. I sang in the church choir, helped with Bible study groups, and seemed to have a happy marriage. But inside I was tired and angry. I felt like nobody really saw me. I started to pull away from my husband Mark without even knowing it was happening. During this hard time, I decided to pray and fast for many days. I was so weak I could barely stand up. But something amazing happened during those prayers that changed my whole life forever. It was around 2 in the morning when everything felt different. The house was quiet except for the old clock ticking on the wall. I had been getting up early for weeks trying to feel close to God again. Even though I went to church and sang songs, I felt empty inside. I was smiling on the outside but crying on the inside. I did not want special visions or miracles. I just wanted to feel God like I did when I first believed in Him. I wanted to feel whole again. But I had no idea what He was about to show me. I got down on my knees in the living room. I opened my Bible to Psalm 139 like always. My eyes were tired, but my heart was crying out for help. I started praying quietly with shaking hands. I said, God, I am here. I am still here even though I am tired and hurt. Please hear me. The words were hard to say, like each one had to climb over a wall of sadness and anger. But I kept going even though I did not know if God was listening. Then something strange happened that I cannot explain. I felt my knees get weak. It was like the floor was pulling my body down. My head touched the carpet. But the weird thing was what happened next. I found myself standing up and looking at my own body. My body was still there lying on the floor, but I was outside of it. It was like my soul had been pulled out of my body. I was scared for a moment, but then a peace came over me that I had never felt before. It was a peace that no words can describe. I knew it was real even though I did not understand it. There was a strong wind blowing, but all the windows were closed. The curtains moved like we were in a storm, but there was no rain or thunder. The air became thick, like I was breathing something from heaven mixed with something that burned my heart. The whole room was filled with a presence so powerful that my soul started crying without tears. It was like everything hidden inside me, my anger, my hurt, my unfinished prayers, was being shown before God. Then I heard a voice, but not a normal voice. It was sweet but strong, with power that came from inside and outside at the same time. The voice said, "Come, you need to see what is happening to many women before it is too late." That made me freeze. I wanted to step back and ask who was speaking, but I could not make any words. The voice did not scare me and it went through my heart. It was like each word opened my chest and showed a wound I had been ignoring. The most amazing thing was that I knew without anyone telling me that this was Jesus. I was then covered by a kind of light that was not white or gold or any color I could describe with earthly words. It was a living light that moved and breathed. As I got wrapped up in it, I started to rise up. There were no stairs or elevators. It was like my soul was being pulled gently but with purpose. I was being taken somewhere, and I knew it would be a place where few people want to go but many need to see. Around me, my living room disappeared. The walls, the carpet, the couch, the clock, everything became blurry memories. Suddenly everything went dark. But it was not normal darkness. It was a living darkness that seemed to watch me. A black that moved like it was breathing. In that darkness, I saw shapes and heard screams and painful whispers. It was like entering a place where time and space followed different rules. Even without seeing it with my real eyes, I felt the suffering around me like it was being sewn into my soul. Then, before I could even ask where I was, the voice spoke again. "Lillian, what you will see next is not punishment. It is a calling. You still have time. They still have time." My heart sank. I knew I was being taken to hell. But what shocked me most was what Jesus said next. "You will see what has destroyed many women quietly." They did not know it, but they walked away from me inside their own marriages. That is when I knew this experience was not just about me. It was about thousands, maybe millions of women who, like me, felt invisible, tired, and overwhelmed. Even though they went to church, they were losing themselves in their roles as wives, mothers, and leaders without knowing they were disconnecting from God. And the worst part was that no one was warning them. The darkness in front of me began to clear, showing a hallway. But this hallway was not ordinary. It looked like it was made of regrets. The walls pulsed with muffled screams, like each brick was made of painful memories. I felt like I was about to see something that would change my life forever and force me to speak out. At that exact moment, I felt an invisible hand hold my spirit. It was not made of flesh or fire or light. It was made of glory. With that hand on me, I took the first step into what I saw next. Jesus then lightly touched my shoulder. His look was firm but kind. He led me down a narrow path that slowly opened like a crack in the floor of hell. It was a hallway unlike anything I had ever seen. The walls were not made of stone. They were made of faces. Women's faces screaming, twisting, begging for help. Some tried to get out of the walls with their hands. Others just cried and shouted names. It was like each wall was made of their eternal choices. The ground seemed to pulse with the beats of rotting hearts. Every step was like walking on sins that had become solid. The place was hot and hard to breathe. But what upset me most was the weight of emotional pain that hung there. It was not just fire. It was guilt, shame, and the memory of what they could have done differently but did not. Jesus looked at me and said in a sad voice, "Here are those who used marriage as a stage for their spiritual rebellion." I kept walking and saw women dressed like they were at their weddings. Their dresses were white but burned and stained with what looked like blood and ash. Some still held dead flower bouquets with petals that slowly fell to the burning ground. I saw one woman who kept shouting, "I did everything for him. I gave up myself for him." Jesus responded with pain, "I did not ask you to give up yourself. I asked for love. But you turned love into demands and care into control." It was like that hallway was a mirror of what so many women lived but never talked about, women who did not cheat on their husbands physically but lived in war inside their own homes, holding on to anger, hate, and rejection that became part of their souls. I saw one woman with her fingers on fire and I understood. She had been typing hidden messages, flirting with coworkers, having unclear conversations and friendships that she knew very well could lead somewhere wrong. Others had their ears covered with black, rotting ears. Jesus explained to me, they stopped listening to their husbands, their children, and even my voice. But they never stopped listening to gossip, comparisons, and voices of other women that fed their rebellion and hate. I saw a woman kneeling, chained to her own phone. The screen was bright and sexual videos were playing on it. She watched like she saw nothing wrong. Jesus said, "She said it was just entertainment, but she was growing desires for what I hate." I saw another woman who repeated like a chant, "But I prayed. I fasted. I did church work." Jesus replied firmly, "You did church work, but you did not do what I wanted most, make peace with your husband, ask for forgiveness, really love." I saw one woman whose mouth was burned. Her lips were dark with every word she tried to say. Jesus revealed, she yelled at her husband every day. She embarrassed him. She cursed with words disguised as advice. She destroyed the home with her tongue and then blamed the devil for it. Each scene cut me up inside. It was like each woman there showed me a part of myself. I could only cry and think, how many times have I been impatient? How many times have I thought, let him deal with it, and gone to sleep without even praying for him? How many times have I let being tired become an excuse to pull away not only from my husband but from God? We reached the end of the hallway and there was the strongest scene. A woman burned from head to toe held a photo, a family photo. She cried and screamed for her children, "Go back and tell them. Please tell them mommy is not in a good place. Tell them not to do what I did." Jesus looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Many women today who lead, sing, and give advice have completely corrupt hearts inside their marriages. They think I approve of their church work, but I look at the heart." I fell to my knees right there. I screamed and cried. I felt naked in front of the truth. I understood that hallway was open for me not to condemn me but to wake me up. Jesus stretched out his hand, "You still have time, but warn others before it is too late." That is when everything started to make sense, but it was not the end yet. There was still more to see in that scary place. After seeing all this, I thought I had seen the worst. But Jesus walked with me a few more steps until we stopped in front of a new entrance. The air there was heavy, not like smoke but like the oxygen itself was poisoned with lies. It was full of self-justification, pride, and barely hidden lust. Ahead of us, a huge line of women stretched like an endless spiral. Each one held papers in their hands that looked like divorce papers, but when I looked closer, I saw they were written in blood, blood from broken promises and vows torn before God. These women did not scream in pain like the others. They mumbled. What shocked me most was that many were still trying to justify what they did. They said things like, "I freed myself," and "God wanted my happiness." Jesus took me closer. I saw that many of those women did not leave their husbands because of loneliness or being treated badly. They left because they were controlled by desires they never gave up at the altar. I saw a woman whose spiritual body was covered with fiery tattoos of men's names. Jesus explained, she said she was unhappy in her marriage, but she lived feeding secret passions with other men over the internet. She called it emotional freedom, but it was spiritual cheating. Then she left her husband to chase the fire she had started herself. Another woman caught my attention. She looked elegant and confident, but her eyes were empty. I saw her past being shown like in a movie. She had gotten involved with a married pastor. It was disguised as spiritual counseling, but deep down they both knew what they were doing. Jesus said, she destroyed her own home and another man's ministry using the excuse that God had brought her together with the right person. But I never bring people together through betrayal. There were also those who used divorce as a door to wild living. I saw women who, after breaking their marriage promises, started partying and getting involved with younger men. They were deep into showing off their bodies on social media, using Bible verses out of context to justify revealing clothes and a free life. Some of those women had spiritually handed their husbands over to the devil. I saw times when, in moments of anger, they prayed curses. These prayers turned into demons that attacked the home, the children, and the husband's work for God. Jesus said with pain, they thought they were prophetesses, but they were witches throwing words like spears. When the house fell apart, they came out blaming me. There were also those who destroyed their husband's reputation on purpose, even without cheating or violence. They lied and twisted the story to come out looking like victims. He was controlling. He was emotionally abusive, they said, but it was not true. They created this story so they could give themselves to other men without feeling guilty. After all this, I could not take any more. My knees gave way and I fell before Jesus, shaking. I could not say anything, just sob. I felt shame, fear, and regret. I felt like a soul who thought she was fine but was slowly losing herself with pretty excuses and empty prayers. Jesus crouched down in front of me. His hands, still marked by the nails from the cross, still open from the sacrifice he made for me, touched my face gently and lifted me up. His eyes met mine. There was no anger in them, only pain. Pain for ignored love, rejected presence, and pain for all those who are still fooling themselves while thinking they are saved. Then he spoke, you saw it. Now you need to speak up because many still think they are safe but they are already falling. At that moment, my soul returned to my body. In an instant, like taking a breath, I woke up suddenly. I was on the living room floor with my face against the carpet, completely soaked with tears. My chest heaved like I had just stopped drowning. My hands were shaking and my mouth could only say, I am sorry, Lord. Forgive me. Without thinking, I ran to the bedroom. The clock still showed 2 a.m. Mark was sleeping peacefully. I knelt at the foot of the bed and cried like a child. It was not just emotional crying, it was a cry of giving up, a cry that said, I have seen hell and I do not want to go back to who I was. That morning I made no promises. I surrendered. From that day on, everything changed. Not by magic or overnight, but because God finally had the space he always wanted, the throne of my heart, my marriage, and my home. I started to see Mark with different eyes. I traded criticism for prayer, hate for honor, and spiritual competition for quiet praying for him. I saw that I wanted to be a voice at the altar but did not hear the voice of the Spirit in our bedroom. With my children, I stopped being the spiritual controller and started being a bridge between them and God. I became more present, lighter, and more honest. I left the altar of performance and threw myself on the altar of repentance. From that day on, everything changed. Not because I became a perfect woman, but because that vision burned my soul in a way that never let me live the same way again. It was like scales fell from my eyes and I finally saw my marriage, my home, and my life through God's eyes, not through the eyes of religion, spiritual pride, or social media. This story is not to accuse you or cause panic. I'm not here as a saint or someone who got everything right. I am here as someone who almost fell and was caught by grace at the last moment. I am here to wake you up and maybe give you the last warning before a fall that you do not even know has started. Hell is real and it does not scream in your face. It whispers through the cracks and comes in with excuses. It feeds on prayers made with bitter hearts, fasting with hidden motives, and church work built on ruined homes. But today God is using this story to talk to you. Not to the crowd but to you personally. Many women are walking toward hell thinking that just because they wear modest clothes, sing in the choir, or have a Christian husband, they are safe. But heaven is not impressed by appearance or spiritual status. Heaven only recognizes broken hearts. Jesus does not just want your strength, your image, or your reputation. He wants your heart. He wants to get into that part you have never shown anyone. He wants to touch the pain you hide even from yourself and clear the grudge you think you have overcome but still drips through your words when no one is watching. He wants to heal, truly heal, not with ready-made phrases from Christian books, but with brokenness, tears, knees on the ground, and change where it hurts most. He wants to restore what you thought could never be rebuilt again. But this will only happen if you let him. Hell is real, but so is heaven. Between one and the other there is a choice. Today that choice is in front of you.